G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff. No free man should want to ever be a Marxist. Simple answer. Marxism seeks to control the means of production. Men, you are the means of production. Think about it. Alright, think about it for a little bit. Marxism, means of production. They say a factory is of raw materials, land. But none of those can do anything without man. Man's ideas turn into products. Man's labour turns raw materials into products. Man's labour on the land turns seed and fertiliser into food. Oh, seed, water and fertiliser. They till the land. They weed the land. In Marxism, they divide society into the bourgeois and the workers. Right? The bourgeois and the middle class means idle middle class in French. They are ignoring, this is why all Marxists are dilettantes. No one else can afford to be a dilettante. The dilettante, the ruling class, the Hassan Pikers, Lenin, Stalin, the difference between Mao, the difference between Mao, Stalin, Lenin and Hassan Piker is, we know Hassan Piker's real name, sort of. But they all have the same politics. They're all constantly preaching Marxism. And what did the Marxists do when they had power? When they wanted power, they were your friend. When they got power, they oppressed you. Why? Marx argues that capitalism enables capital to exploit the workers. That the revolution is necessary to seize resources for collective ownership and social needs over profit. But the state can't exist unless the factory makes a profit. The factory needs more. They're destroying society now, but when society's on its knees, they'll enslave you. They'll force everything. They're always on your side until they have power. Look at the sun, okay? Every time, right, he's confronted. He insulted a South Vietnamese, told her to go home. When a black person brought up the black struggle, he didn't care. He said, who cares what black people think about? Think about it. Every Marxist is the same. I don't recommend you watching Hassan Piker. More Pegasus has all the drama on Hassan Piker. Has all the Hassan Piker I can stand. But Marxists, forget, right? When the state takes over capital, the state becomes the capitalist. Capitalist is the owner or the controller of capital. Whoever controls capital is the capitalist. That's all a capitalist is. Profit is a necessity. Factories cannot make less than you put in so that you can go home with goods and services, because the factory needs to buy all the replacement raw materials. So what do? They argue they're going to get rid of money. But what happens when you create something unique for yourself and someone else wants it? They'll take it. That's slavery. But they argue then, but you can go take what you need. Yes, but everyone else is taking. There's no mechanism, there's no barrier to stop wholesale hoarding. They argue that now about hoarding of wealth, but factories are not wealth. They accumulate value only because the government assigns value to increase taxes. Arguments pro-Marxism will always tell you the means of production is non-human. But okay, unless it's a robot, autonomous robot, it's useless without human capital. And they even talk later about investment in human capital, saying that education is a right because it's investment in human capital. But education, the difference between the right to get an education and a right to educate is, the right to get an education means you can enter any institution and enroll and get an education. If you fail, the institution claims they have the right to kick you out. Alright, so but the intersection, right, between right to and right to have, the right to have an education means that you are forcing others to provide that education at their expense, not yours. That's a privilege. Marxism always argues privilege as a right. Means of production is a goods and services produced by someone. That is not a right, that is a privilege. Mode of production. The combination of productive forces and social relationships define a society's economic structure. No, the flow of goods and services is the economic structure, which means you are the economy. You are the production. And class struggle is, it's not gender that's the close social construct, it's class struggle. Marxism is the social construct of class struggle. The manufactured conflict between capitalism and the proletariat, no, is created. Even the words proletariat have been corrupted. Working class. Because when you're no longer working class, what do? They don't support you. They can't. You're no longer the means of production. Therefore, you're an inherent threat to the state because you're now a threat to their resources. They always claim that workers are paid less than they're worth. No one's paid what they're worth. You're invaluable. Your time isn't infinite. I guarantee you, most jobs over twice the average wage are overpaid. I would argue that no one should earn more than 7 times the average wage. Sure, you can have bonuses, and I would cap those bonuses as well. We should regulate all wage. Society is regulated. So the argument by Marx that society should be regulated is mute, because we already regulate society. It's called the government. Control dynamics. You have different levels of control. Socialism uses the weight, or should I say the boot, of the government. So does fascism. So does communism. But in communism, the government is the factory owner. In fascism, it's a private government partnership that owns the means of production. Same with socialism. But the differences between fascism and socialism are nuanced, whereas fascism seeks to control through force. Well, wait a minute, so does all three. Fascism argues that violence is inherently necessary. Wait a minute, isn't that what a revolution is? So you start to see that there is branding issues. All Marxists, socialists, leftists, liberals all support the same thing. Just their language is different. See, the fascists argued that state violence is a necessity, a must. Whereas socialism always uses decoded language and always talked about we're peace-loving fairies and we tra-la-la through the woods, you know. But the historical shift from of the working class to socialism has been through a top-down inherited system where the government allowed the formation of unions to appease foreign workers. This was the Irish Workers' Club to have legal representation in England during the Industrial Revolution. Marx didn't create unions. They only took them over. So you have to create a top-down system. Why? Because the British Empire wanted means of control, the means of production. The British Empire was inherently socialist. Just because you have a king and a parliament and democracy does not mean you're not socialist. Communism, thus, it argues inherently that communists should be the only state power, but so does fascism. So I would argue, again, conservatives aren't necessarily right-wing either. As you see, conservatives in America are split. 40% of conservatives are Democrat, 20% are Libertarians, and 40%, around 38% actually, are Republicans. And that small slither are independents. Sorry to burst your bubble, but people think, conservatives and right-wing. Well, actually, on the Freedom Index, right-wing is freedom, left-wing is authoritarianism. So the difference between fascism and socialism is fascism is more authoritarian than socialism, and communism is closer to fascism, or in between the middle, with liberalism and socialism at the bottom. Now, liberals are supposed to have a multifunctional democracy. The problem is they want everyone to be liberal. Which means they're the antithesis to the idea of a liberal society or a free society, because they corrupt the word liberal. Just like every word is corrupted under Marxism. They change the meaning of everything. So whenever they talk about the capital, right, they include human capital. Just not at the beginning, because they want you to give up first all your rights, all your thinking, get you so used to the coded language of slow. It's like baby steps. It's like how the Nazis took over baby steps, right? Mao didn't come from nowhere. He came from 20 years of fighting against various foreign powers. Isn't it amazing that China, who didn't like the boot of foreign powers on their neck, are the ones who put the boot on the Tibetans' neck, put the boot on the Mongolians' neck, want to put the boot on the Vietnamese's neck, put the boot on Taiwanese neck. Taiwan is not Chinese. The inherent people of Taiwan are Anar Indians, who are somewhat related to the same people who founded Japan. Most Japanese are descendants today are descendants of foreign invaders. And a lot of them did mix with the native population, and the inherent difference between the Japanese and foreigners is sometimes just the hue, or maybe a little bit of difference in the eye, or anybody over a certain height is not considered Japanese, you know. So, yeah, but Japan does have a native population, so does Taiwan. Does that mean I want to decolonize Japan? No. Well, sort of. I want all the Indians and Puggies to come. And that's another story about how mass migration is used to dilute the vote, to create social disharmony. All groups inherently, right, have to deal with the fact, no matter what we do, there's always something that's going to destabilize the economy. natural disasters, incompetent governments. So if you do not allow these to be removed, particularly incompetent governments, what happens? Yeah, they become even more corrupt, like Ukraine. Now, you can have things turn around like Ganya. Ganya is pushing out the Chinese, reclaiming its resources. Remember when the Chinese were laughing at Africa reclaiming their resources from European mineral companies? Some of those European mineral companies are still there in partnership with the government. But the Chinese, they're now facing the same thing. See, Marxists don't believe what they preach. That's why they never tell you you are the means of production. They don't want you to figure it out. I don't think most Marxists figure it out either. I think only the few at the top. And again, most of your top Marxists are dilettantes. Idle rich like Hassan Piker, Welch. Look at all the Hollywood celebrities. Because inherently, liberals need an audience, right? I would not say every single one of them is narcissistic, but they use narcissistic tactics to bully, threaten, fearmonger, to capture and keep their audience afraid, unthinking, and to some extent uncaring. That's why they label people bourgeois, because the word has such a evil connotation as a leftover from propaganda from the French Revolution. When you think of the French Revolution, this is how indoctrinated you are at school. The French Revolution, pure indoctrination to basically demonize anyone who isn't a Marxist, to ultimately use social pressure tactics, i.e. manipulation, to force the majority to become Marxists in order to fit in, and then they think that, of course, again, any system that requires control of everything means you can't have outsiders. So even if you don't want to be a capitalist, you have no choice. Marxism is capitalism on an extreme level, and you are either a Marxist or a slave. And everyone can't be a Marxist. And remember, when Marx died, Marxism was taken over by his daughter and is now ruled by a central committee, rather secretive central committee, which includes the Jacobins and many other groups. And again, only the idle rich have the means, the time, and the resources for going around preaching Marxism. These unions, they are the idle rich, all of them. And what do unions do? They collect workers' money, put it into huge funds, and they get rich. Well, and then at the end of your working life, you might actually get a small pension, but the union leaders all get rich. That's why you can only have a few Marxists. They concentrate wealth, just like a capitalist. The very thing. It's almost like the loudest in the room is always the one with something to hide, and usually the thing they're railing against the most is their actual guilty crime. Everyone calling for the Epstein files. You didn't call for them under Biden. Biden sat on them for 4 years. Isn't that interesting? But again, revenge and politics is nothing new. We screamed about Sleepy Joe. They scream about Sleepy Trump. We pointed out cognitive decline in Biden. they claim Trump has cognitive decline. We said Biden had no economic plan and he was a disaster. You name it. So, projection is not a left or right thing, but it is definitely a Marxist tool. And again, one of the ways to enhance your confidence is to take your faults and project them onto others. That way everyone is, I've seen this with Marxists, right? They'll always pick the smallest person in the room or the richest looking person in the room. The Marxists will always dress down when they're preaching Marx, but when they're out and about in everyday life, they're always overdressed. They've got expensive cars, expensive clothes, expensive watches, and they're always talking about how successful they are. Success attracts weak minds, right? The flaunting of success, attracts the weak mind. And then they preach how they became success through altruism, which is impossible, but that's what they do, right? Bill Gates, he still hasn't, all this time and he still hasn't managed to give away his wealth. Oh no, I'm managing my wealth and giving away the proceeds. So, again, he's not giving away his wealth, only part of the profit. Just like Mackenzie Bezos, oh no, I haven't actually given away all $2 million left. Or J.K. Rowling, well, technically I'm dispersing money every year from the trust fund to feminists. So, don't think J.K. Rowling's your friend. She's just using trans to divert from herself. She funds radical feminists. Everyone on the left tends to lie. Everyone on the right tends to deflect. It's a difference. It's a very subtle difference. Lying generally means you know you're lying. Like Marxists are lying that they want to enslave you. The right, they deflect. They see the dilemma of the system. We know that you need to work. We need the majority to work, otherwise we can't produce enough goods and services for all. We have to control the population, but we try not to say it out loud, right? And everything is such scrambled eggs and such a big complex machine of corrupt individuals. So the right deflects, right? They can't face the reality. So instead of accepting the criticism and trying to do something about it, they shrug it off and say, nah, it's a free market, it's a free market, it's a free market. It's not. There is no free market. It's all control of production. That's the problem. So now we get into degrees of control. And the further we get away from the centre, towards the left, is means of control of production. The more we get away to the right means there's less control of production. You decide to control production. So really, it's, again, the government with its boot on your neck. So it's authoritarianism, degrees of authoritarianism. And Marxism, controlling the means of production, I would pretty much say that's 100% a boot on your neck. That's slavery. Yeah. And again, they say for profit. You may need 100 widgets, but the government needs maybe 10 of those to survive. So now you've got to produce 110 widgets. But then the government gives itself a pay rise every year. So now you've got to produce more and more. So then you start getting unemployment, children, and there you go. That's how they control you, right? Every time you meet production quotas, ta-da! Inflation. So there you go. It's a tool of control. So the control of means of production exists. Now we're talking about degrees of production. In Marxism, by taking away private property, that's slavery. That's treating you as property, treating you as a resource, because none of these resources, coal can't dig itself out of the ground. Trees don't cut themselves down and turn themselves into in the furniture. The revolution, those guns don't shoot themselves, Turns out, they need gun control. That's only so there's no one to, again, control. That's to make sure that the guns are only in the hands of the revolutionaries. And see, Marxism wouldn't spread so much in America if it wasn't for the perpetual revolution. It's liberalism. So it's a gateway drug. Control is a drug. The need to control others is a drug. That's why mgtow is freedom. mgtow is the future. I know, brothers, they are going to get you to buy... Oh, sorry, they're going to get this, They've taken away your right to a family, to a child. We're not quite there yet, but we will start to see women selling their bodies for surrogacy. With the whole problem is you have extremists who want to turn everything into transactions, and you have the marriage at the moment, the intersectionality between feminists, Marxists, fascists, all the isms, Islamism, fascism, everything. Afrocentric racism, Afrocentric Marxism, they're all working against America or the West. That's what BRICS is. And the irony is, it's defeatable still. It is still defeatable. Right? So don't let the squabbling or the pettiness of society take away your confidence. See my previous video. Always look to the bright side of life. Yes, Monty Python. All right. So before I go, this is my Etsy shop. As you can see, my fantasy author mug, and I've got more to come. Okay. I got new artwork coming today. So I'm going to have new artwork soon for the It's Coffee Time. Well, I already got this one. It's got artwork coming now. I finally have enough for more artwork. And I'll have some more of the ladies. And I'll start getting the Elvin Dog series. Start getting more of that done. I'm sorry. I've been, when you're on the edge, trying to get started from scratch. I'm literally starting from scratch. Right. There's Princess Izanami. She's one of the main characters. I am Princess Izanami. Yeah, I'll have a lot more travel mugs, decanters, and I'll have a lot more products soon too. Now, if you're into stickers, I could do posters and t-shirts, but and bags. But as for stickers, I probably have to do those separately. So, if you want some interesting face, there's some words I can't use. There's interesting faces that women can make. I think I'll get some of those done as well. Some nice, interesting faces done as well. So I appreciate each and every one of you, of course. And thank you for watching. Now, it doesn't cost you anything to like, share, and subscribe. If you've got to voice your opinion, go ahead. But remember, if you're insulting, YouTube will automatically... I know some channels turn that off, but for some reason, it happens to me. No matter what that setting is, it will always work. Yeah. People want to tell me how victorious Ukraine is. Yeah. Buddy, go to the back of the bus. Alright, so like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. Check out the links in the description below. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon. Buy my books, buy my merch. Appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.